Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. And I tell you what, we might be talking about Neves and Kamara, but that's going to have to be put aside for a couple of minutes as I talk about the absolute disgrace Manchester United really. What an absolute farce it is that we have now got established players at Manchester United basically running this football club, turning on managers that have only been here a month. Now look, I've not been live since last night. I was at a funeral today. So I've been driving around a lot. I had to go down to London and back. But I'm back for the evening show. A little bit earlier because I'm going to do Chelsea versus Spurs. I've dropped the link in the video description for that. But we're talking Manchester United and we're talking dressing room unrest that is now established. I've known about this for a while. I'm sure many of you have known this for a while. There are cliques within that Manchester United. And I agree with you, Paul. Divas FC. Mourinho was right. Roy Keane was right. That football club is riddled with disease and infection and it's crippled. You know, there's no vaccine that's going to cure this. It is riddled with disease because it has allowed itself to be run by players who are not good enough. Now we'll talk about why Jose was right in a minute, but you may have noticed last night a few leaks coming from the Mirror, then the Mail. They're now coming from Sky and other outlets. Manchester United are even going to get Mike Phelan to try and unify the dressing room. I mean, that makes my eyes want to throw up. Mike Phelan shouldn't even be at the club. We're going to use Mike Phelan to unite the dressing room to get behind Rangnick. Oh my God. Oh my God. A man who was the right-hand man of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for 3 years, who got the sack because he was crap, is now going to back involved unifying the dressing room. This bloke's a fraud. What's he going to do? What is he going to do? Like, put his shorts on and pop a balloon? What Mike Phelan shouldn't even be there. And you know what the story is that leaked? Mike Phelan's going to unify the dressing room because he's the only one with the link to the Sir Alex Ferguson days. Who gives a shit about the link to Sir Alex Ferguson days? Sir Alex Ferguson days are over. They're parked in history. They were great, but we need new days. We don't need some Aldi version trying to... I sat next to Sir Alex, but 10 years ago, I've got the magic touch. Like, when will this club grow up? When will it look at successful clubs now? Instead of, we're watching the History Channel for advice. We're on bloody UK Gold looking for advice. Look at the real world of football behind you. It's behind you. The past is behind you. Look at the real world of football. Look at the Tuchels, look at the Klopps, look at the Liverpools, look at the Man Cities, look at the Chelseas. Look at why they're successful, and it's got nothing to do with staring back at the past with a tear in your eye, wishing it was that day again. But look, if you're not aware, we're going to talk about actually we are going to talk about Neves and Kamara, but can I just tell you the Ruben Neves story is a load of BS. It's a load of crap. I mean, as I said, I've been busy today, so I had no input on the afternoon show that Beth and Adam were talking about. I got told about the Neves story. I made a couple of phone calls. We're not buying Neves in January. We're not. Unless United go and do something ridiculous. Right here, right now, we're not in for Neves. I don't know where that story's come from. I don't know whether it's to get us excited and move our attention away. We're not in for Neves. The closest we're in for Neves is that he ran the midfield against us on Monday night. We're not in for Neves. We should have got Neves in the summer. You saw on Monday night why we should get Neves. There was people going, I'm not sure about Neves. You're not sure about Neves when you've got Matic and McTominay in your midfield. I'd take John Joe Shelvey. And you're thinking about whether Neves is good enough. But that's by the by. Will you root for Spurs tonight? Big up from Ireland, says Kieran Abbott. Let me just read you these quotes. I'm just going to watch that game as a neutral, Kieran, to be honest with you. So this is from Sky Sports News. Manchester United players are struggling to adapt to Ralph Rangnick's methods, with some at the club in doubt over whether he is the right man to be in charge. There are players at Manchester United who are ready to play, but they don't have the coach to get the best out of those players. Players are struggling to adapt, and Mike Phelan has been asked to help unify the dressing room at Manchester United and prevent the club's season falling into further disarray. He is seen as the ideal man to build bridges in a dressing room which is divided into cliques, and that's from Mike McGrath. I mean, it's enough to make you cry, isn't it? It's enough to make you cry. Ralph Rangnick has come in. He's only been there a month. He's spoken more sense about football than we've heard in about 6 years. He's taken 10 points from 15, and the players have gone to the press and turned on him. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer spent the last 18 months looking like a complete and utter prat, well out of his depth. He was like somebody who couldn't swim in the deep end without a rubber ring. It's splashing around, absolutely ridiculous press conferences, and not one leak to the press. Ralph Rangnick's been there a month. He's spoken sense. He's spoken about what needs to be done at the football club, and we've got leaks. That is appalling. I don't care what angle you are at. I don't care what agenda you've got. That is appalling. That is absolutely appalling. They didn't once call Ollie out for continued, Liverpool at home 5-0. Absolute tactical embarrassment. Nobody said anything. Rangnick, he's been here 5 minutes. Oh, he's not the man. He's not the right man. You know what? Brexit. That's all I'm going to say. There is a clique in that dressing room, and they shouldn't even be at the bloody club, some of them. You know what clique it is that's driving this. It's the same old clique that's moaning about not getting enough minutes. It's the same old clique that shouldn't even been bought. It's the same old clique, as per ever, that have got their nose out the joint because Ronaldo's come in, and Ronaldo's the biggest influence in the dressing room, and they don't like it. They don't like it because the status quo has changed. They're actually moaning about Ronaldo's impact. One of the greatest players that's ever played the game. I mean, I absolutely cannot stand these players. I cannot stand them. They're not United players. They're poison. And it goes back to the Mourinho days. They are poison. They're not Manchester United players. I would half listen to their moanings if they were good players, but they're not. They're overinflated, egotistical players who think they're better than they are, and they can't deal with criticism. They think we're hysterical. They think we don't know what we're on about. They think they know best. But the reality is, I'm not the one playing for Manchester United consistently putting in 4 or 3 out of 10 performances. You're shit, lads. Your opinions are shit and you're shit. And you're causing trouble behind the scenes on a manager that's only been there for 4 weeks. Now, I don't care whether that manager's David Moyes, Sean Dyche, Ralph Rangnick. You do not turn on a manager after 4 weeks when you're the reason we're in a bloody stupid position anyway. Overinflated, arrogant divas. That's what they are. They're a bloody disgrace to the shirt. And the fact that they are, turning on a manager and letting leaks come out, absolutely disgraceful. I expect apologies. I expect responses. But I tell you what, turning on Rangnick's one thing. Letting leaks come out about Ronaldo and saying, Ronaldo's unsettled us. We don't like how Ronaldo's playing every single game. Who are you? Who are you to question Cristiano Ronaldo? The hilarity of this is unbelievable. Not only is he one of the world's best ever players, not only is he one of the world's best strikers who's getting no service, not only has he won absolutely everything, and most of the time, numerous times, he's also done it at this club that you think's yours, you tossers. Like, you're criticising a player who not only is a legend of the game, he's also a legend of the club that you think's yours. That you think he's an imposter that's come into the dressing room and unsettled it. He was here before you dickheads. And he won a Ballon d'Or. He won a Champions League. He won Premier League titles. He broke goal scoring records. He's a United legend, you twats. He's not come in as a big outsider and upset you. You're nothing compared to him. No United fan's going to turn on Ronaldo for you, you knobheads. None of them. So I tell you what, take a sit down, watch a DVD of the history of Manchester United and understand why people are fed up of you. Because you're not good enough, lads. You're not good enough. Stop moaning, put a transfer request in and do one. Because nobody bloody wants you here. Upsetting the apple cart, turning on managers after a month, moaning about a legend of the club coming back and demanding you do better. You've been shit. You are shit. Now bloody get better or piss off. Because I'm fed up of the leaks. You're embarrassing the football club. At least Lukaku did the interview. Alright, he got a load of crap, but at least he sat there and did it, unlike a snake who leaks stuff out behind the scenes. It's a bloody disgrace. The results have been bad enough this season, but it's actually a disgrace that we've now had 24 hours of leaks. That manager's not even been there 5 weeks, and they've turned on him. They're turning on a legend of still the best striker in the world for me. They're turning on him because, why is he being picked every game? Probably because he's the best player in the bloody squad by a long way and he's getting no service. He's not making mistakes in the midfield or at centre-back or not bloody putting crosses in. You're dropped in shit because you're shit every week. He's playing shit because you lot won't get the ball up front. I'm so angry with it. I'm so fed up with it. Mr. Dan United says, I'm disgusted with the players turning on Ralph after one defeat. Mate, look, you know what? I said it last night. The sad thing about those leaks last night, all right, it's coming from the Mirror and the Mail, is that I know they're true. But today they're coming out from lots of places. The players have turned on that manager. And when I say the players, it's not all of them, but a certain section of them have. It's almost described to me today. It's described to me today as basically civil war. But no one's got a pair of balls. You know, they're all moaning and chuntering, but nobody actually dares square up to anybody. It's all leaks. It's all moodiness. It's all Judas, stab him in the back. Nobody's actually standing up in the dressing room and saying, why is Ronaldo being picked? We don't like Ralf Rangnick. Because they're all bloody cowards. They're not winners. This is why they bottle semi-finals and they bottle finals. Because they're cowards. Now, I don't need to name names. I can't be asked to name names because you know who you are. And there's no point naming names because we're a team. We're Manchester United. I suggest you sit down, you learn from people like Ralf Rangnick and Cristiano Ronaldo, and if you don't want to, you piss off. It's as simple as that. Because I tell you what, I've got no sympathy. And look, everybody knows I like Donny van der Beek. I like Donny van der Beek. But Donny, put a transfer request in. Don't be like the rest of them and start leaking to the press. I'd respect Donny van der Beek a lot. If Donny van der Beek hands a transfer request in tomorrow, I'd applaud him. I'd say, mate, you're spot on. Well done. Well done. I've got no problem with you handing a transfer request in. You've been treated like shit. You're not going to get picked. Put a transfer request in. Don't be like the other lot leaking to the press. That's cowardly. We don't want that. Our trash players want trash coach. They can control and they're messing up our club. They need to get sold. Forget about mending the dressing room. Get rid of them, says Chris Lee. Mark, time to start naming names, says Nick. Well, look, Nick, I'm more than happy to name names, but to be honest with you, what's the point? What is the point? I don't want to be the person who starts driving agendas against players because I want us to win, and I know that these players aren't going to get sold, and I'll tell you why. What those players need to do is they need to have a long, hard look at themselves, look at that badge and realise that badge is bigger than they'll ever be. And look in the mirror and realise you're shit and do something about it. Because you know what? Sometimes when you're moaning, the first person you need to look at is the mirror. Spot on, Mark. Whoever these players are, they need to be thrown out of the club and Rangnick should expose them. Some of these players are just big names and plain size. That's exactly what should happen, Muck. But it won't happen because the club are terrified of these players, which we'll talk about now. Love your work and love to have you on Way Football. Do you think there is too many big characters in the squad, every player to their own? We've got big characters who aren't good enough for One Way Football, basically. They should be named, shamed and ran out the door, says Edward Walters. It doesn't take much to figure out who they are. Mark, I don't think the board will allow Ralph to clear the turmoil and sell the cowards. I just don't think those players can earn my trust again. I don't trust them, Cigar, and I've not trusted them for a long time because they are bottlers ultimately. A Chelsea loanee at a relegation side in Norwich pushes McTominay to centre-back for Scotland. That should say all we need to know, says Joshua Bellwater. I doubt Donny leaks that he seems respectable. I bet the leak is crappy slabhead because he just ain't good enough, says Jono. Well, we know, look. A lot of people think it's Henderson because he's, always seems to be involved in leaks. I don't think this is Dean Henderson, to be honest. I really don't. And ultimately, it's not one player anyway. It's not Jesse Lingard on his own. It's not Dean Henderson. It's not Donny van der Beek. It's not Bruno Fernandes. You can name any player you want. This is a collection of players. And that's what makes it worse. It's a collection of players who, basically what's happened is, Ralf Rangnick's gone in. He said that what you were doing was crap. Some of you are playing crap. This is how we're going to do it. It's completely different to anything you've done before, and they don't like it. So therefore, they're saying, we don't think he's good enough. We don't think... this is the hilarity of this. After 1 month, our shit players who've not won anything for years have looked at Ralf Rangnick and gone, we don't think you're good enough. Who are you going to trust? The players that never deliver anything, or a manager that is the role model for Jurgen Klopp, Thomas Tuchel, Nagelsmann? You know what? I think I'm going to trust Ralf Rangnick. Mark, if we don't invest in January, the teams around us will, says James Rick. Incredible that the board doesn't get it or help Ralph properly, says James. Welcome to the members club, Electro Dan. And did you see that Phil Jones walked out of the pitch crying and kissing the badge? He cried because we lost. That's the mentality I want, says AMR. Mate, no. I'll be honest with you. That's not the mentality I want. Look, I know we're in a bad position, but come on. Phil Jones is not the future of this football club. Phil Jones is not the future of Everton Football Club. He had a good game on Wednesday night or Monday night, and he's better than Maguire, but let's not fall into the passion wagon. This is what happens when McTominay or Fred have a good game. Everyone goes, it's the answer. They're passion merchants. Phil Jones is not one of the best centre-backs in the world. We need the best. We need to figure out how to play football. We can't be Passion FC anymore. And I loved Phil Jones' performance on Monday, and I really hope him the best of the future. But it's not at Manchester United. Let's be real. His future is not at Manchester United. And he's not good enough for Manchester United in the long run. Mark, I agree with you, mate. These players are a bunch of players earning 150k a week. Straight up bullshit, says Victor. Look, I was going to say this, and I will say this. Jose Mourinho was right. He was absolutely right. He basically said that this club is being run by players behind my back, and the board backed the players over the manager. In so many words, that's what he always said. And that was, what, 3.5 years ago? And he's right. They listened to the players to get rid of Mourinho. Now, the thing is, Mourinho should have been sacked. There were people who would disagree with me, but Mourinho should have been sacked. It was a long goodbye. A lot of people wanted Jose out 8 months before he went. But that doesn't mean he's wrong. The players downed tools for Mourinho and picked them up as soon as Ollie came in because he was their mate. The reality is, Manchester United made a conscious decision at the end of the Mourinho reign to start valuing player opinions over the manager. And they've never stopped doing it since. There are football players in that Manchester United first team squad, and I'm not talking about Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo's only been there 5 minutes. There are players that have been at that club for over 2 years, and there's about 4 of them who influence the club at a very high level. We're talking Ed Woodward level. We're talking board level. There are players that get listened to when they shouldn't. At any club. But certainly not at a club where those players don't provide trophies. United have gone down this route where players are not just players. You know, think about the leak when Ollie got the sack. There was leaks coming out that certain senior players weren't happy that they weren't consulted about it. There's no smoke without fire. These players have a big say on what goes on at that club. How are they ever going to get dropped? How are they ever going to feel like a player of Manchester United? Can you imagine back in the day, Roy Keane, Steve Bruce, Paul Ince, Mark Hughes, Eric Cantona, Ryan Giggs are so that they're speaking to the board members over behind the manager's back. And we were successful then. And it would never happen. Sir Alex Ferguson run that club like the boss, and the players were terrified of him, respected him and terrified of him. We've now got players who aren't fit to lace the boots of those brilliant players we had, who've got more authority. They've got an ear with people behind the manager's back. This is where it's gone wrong, and Mourinho was right. I mean, look, Jose should have been sacked, but he was right. It started with Mourinho, where the board basically was talking to players behind Mourinho's back, and they've never stopped doing it. There are players in that football club who basically make themselves undroppable because they're having conversations behind the manager's back with people empowering the club. And this is why we're in a mess. The club is rotten. It's rotten from top to bottom because of the way they've allowed the club to be run. They think DNA is important. They think certain players... I mean, look, imagine having the ear of the board as a player for Manchester United who can give an opinion on whether a manager can be sacked or on whether a manager's good enough behind the manager's back. That's what Manchester United have become. A team that is focused on money and brand, and we've got a lot of players. I mean, look, I'm going to say it. I'm just going to say it. We need to all support Ralph, says Matthew, 100%. Welcome to the Members Club, Karen Villa, and Mark Smith's been a member for 18 months. Your legend, thank you very much. People would do anything to wear that shirt, forget the wages they receive, and those players are crying because one of the goats has exposed them, says Little. Look at it like this, right? We've said many times as a fan base that the club is not a football club, it's a business, right? And a business is a football club that wants to make money and isn't really that focused on winning trophies. So we're a business, not a football club. We all accept that, yeah? But what about the players? What about if the players are brands and more than their football players? And what I mean by that is, what if some of our players are sort of immune to playing crap because they've become such a brand for the club? Now, again, I don't need to name players. It could be a player that's on 200 grand a week. You know, they're not doing stuff off the pitch, but they're on 200 grand a week and they've got a lot of power in the club. It could be a player that does a lot of social media stuff. It could be a player that's doing a lot of other stuff. But the reality is, some of our players are more notorious as a brand than they are as a footballer. Like, Son is better than any of our attackers, bar Ronaldo for me. You don't really hear about him other than as a footballer. And yet all our attackers, a lot of them, it's, you know, they're mythical. They're big name players, but for what? Why are you big name players? Because they play for Manchester United. It's brand Manchester United. If some of these players that play for Man United were at Everton, we'd never talk about them. Yerry Mina would probably be our best centre-back with Varane. The quality of some of our players that are held up as really important, they're just not good enough. They're just not good enough. And they've got too much power. And that is why, over the last 24 hours, absolute torrent of leaks and undermining the manager. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And now we've got this story that Mike Phelan is going to sort it out. Da-da-da! Mike Phelan to the rescue. It makes me want to cry. Mike Phelan to the rescue. Mike Phelan, who sat next to Ollie for 3 years and advised him on how to be shit, is now going to advise the dressing room to back Ralf Rangnick. I mean, do the club not understand what sacking somebody means? You sack somebody and everybody with them because they're crap. You don't sack them and then keep a couple of people to advise the new manager. What is going on? What is going on at that football club? They're deluded. They're absolutely stupid. Somebody needs to sit them down and ask them what the bloody hell they're doing. Knock on the door and then knock on their head because it's... Hello? Is anybody in there? What is it you're trying to do? We want to be successful like we were 12 years ago. Mike Phelan was his assistant coach 12 years ago. That means if he's the assistant coach now, we'll be successful. You're an idiot. I don't know who I'm talking to. You're an idiot. What are you doing? Mike Phelan went to bloody Hull and got him relegated and he was doing something in Australia. He's not a football genius. He had his time. Darren Fletcher was playing at Stoke and you've put him as an assistant coach. Who is he? What CV's he got? I tell you what's the best thing to do. Stop talking about DNA and start recruiting specialists. And I don't care whether they've managed... I don't care whether they're a specialist from Armenia, from Stoke, wherever. Get specialists with a CV because that's what this club needs. And I tell you what, the best bit of advice I can give you ever is, right? Manchester United hadn't won a title in nearly 20 years. In the mid-80s, we sacked Ron Atkinson and we recruited a manager who'd never touched base in England. He'd never played in England. He had nothing to do with Manchester United. He had a good CV from what he'd done in Scotland. We brought him down and he rebuilt this football club from top to bottom and we went on to build an empire that lasted 3 decades. His name was Sir Alex Ferguson, but it wasn't when we recruited him. It was Alex Ferguson from Aberdeen. And we didn't talk about DNA. We let him come in and do what he wanted to do. So why are you trying to repeat what Sir Alex Ferguson did by recruiting people that have been out of the game or not relevant to the game for 10 years? It's just idiot tactics. Get Kamara, he can play CDM and centre-back. His contract expires at the end of the season and he has leadership, says Andy Joyce. Welcome to the Members Club, Stefan. Even Ollie had to apologise to a certain senior player a day after criticising. That's what happens when we brand academy players as brands, says Finesse King. I genuinely think the board are putting out fake leaks to put the blame on Rangnick instead of the obvious lack of quality in the squad, says Galactic. And Karen Via, welcome to the Members Club. Thanks everyone who's tuning in, by the way. Please smash a like on the video. A few people have said in the chat, where do you stand on Rangnick? Look, on Monday night, he deserved a lot of criticism, but I'm actually seriously... even on Monday, I said I'm 100% behind Rangnick. He's only been here 5 minutes. You can't go Rangnick out after 5 minutes. I think the biggest problem that we've got with Ralf Rangnick is he's got Darren Fletcher and Mike Phelan advising him. Well, those two people worked with Ollie. I don't think this is Rangnick in charge. I don't. I think he's been undermined. And I think a massive part of why he's been undermined is, right, Ralf Rangnick tells the team to coach, right? Darren Fletcher and Mike Phelan go off and do it. Well, they've known them players for 3 years. I just think everyone's stabbing everyone in the back. What needed to happen was clear house. Darren Fletcher off, Phelan off, and Rangnick brings his own people in. And then the players haven't got anyone to moan to but themselves. And if they moan to themselves and it gets heard, you don't get picked. There's too much confliction in that dressing room and on that training ground. There's people who've got relationships with these players, mates relationships, before Rangnick even came in. And you know who they are as well. It undermines the manager. And basically what's happened, and I was told this afternoon, Rangnick is being perceived as an outsider. There are cliques in that dressing room who get on with certain coaches and they feel that they've got more power and they don't need to listen to the new man. And the club haven't given Rangnick the power. So Rangnick's in a position where he's come in almost like a new boy at school. He knows what he wants and he knows what to do. But there's little bully gangs that are like, no, we don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. And unfortunately, as Mourinho said, Rangnick's come in as the new manager, but he's got no power because the cliques are too powerful. And they're bitching and moaning and leaking and talking. And it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. But you know what the solution is? We're going nowhere but down anyway. So what Ralph Rangnick needs to do is treat those players like the snakes that they are and out them. And whether that means dropping them or not, out them. Don't try and appease them. There's absolutely no point in bending over backwards to please the snakes. Because at the end of the day, those snakes have bottled it over the last few years. Out them. The only players that I trust at Manchester United, in a playing sense, are David De Gea, Cristiano Ronaldo, because they've done it. They've done it at the highest level. Even Bruno needs to improve. Rashford needs to improve. Luke Shaw needs to improve. These are players I like. Greenwood, I like Greenwood. He's got, I don't know anything about Greenwood. Greenwood's not a player I really know anything about. I just like him. I don't know what cliques he hangs around in, but I tell you what, I really hope, if I could give Mason Greenwood any advice, get in with fucking Ronaldo. He's the one you need to attach yourself to. Don't attach yourself to people that you've grown up in the youth setup who are now in the first team, because they've not achieved anything in the game. Ronaldo is a GOAT of the game and he's a GOAT of Manchester United. Don't listen to the rumours and don't listen to the whispers that Ronaldo's the problem at Manchester United. Ronaldo's the solution at Manchester United because he's the only one who's done it all at that club. He should be listened to. Everyone should be absolutely listening to him. But unfortunately, they're so inflated egos in that club. They think they're better than they are. Mark, what should be our aim if we do not qualify for the Champions League? I don't want any Europa and Conference, says United Ashraf. Look, you know what? If we just lost to Wolves on Monday, it's bad enough. But the reaction that we've had, this is why they shouldn't have been given 2 days off. They've had today off. So remember, United players have had today off. That's why you're getting all these leaks. They should have been pulled into training on Tuesday afternoon. I wouldn't have given them any time off. I'd have had them in on Tuesday afternoon, watching videos. I'd have had them training today, training tomorrow. They can have Saturday off. But they're not even back training till tomorrow. So tomorrow's going to have, they're all going to have a bloody restaurant meet-up again, aren't they? Which they did under Ollie. They can't be trusted. They cannot be trusted. It's not my job to name the players. It's not my job to sell these players. The club know who they are. My advice to the club is, they're poison. Get them out. And the reality is, you can't say, well, we can't get them out because they're too valuable. Name me a player that's played consistently well this season apart from David De Gea. And he's not the snake. So, you know what? Clear house. Clear house. Get a manager in, give him his own coaching team, get rid of the legacy coaches, and let the new manager... Conte would have been perfect. That's exactly what we needed. Somebody who won't keep the old coaches, who will come in and go, I don't care who you are. Have you won anything? No, you haven't. Why am I... If I'm the manager of Man United and somebody starts bitching, I'll say, hold on a minute. Can I just ask you one question? How long have I been at the club? A month. Yeah, I've only been here a month. How long have you been here? Coming up for 3 years. Okay. Why am I here? Because the manager got sacked. Yeah, because you were shit, mate. Now shut up, sit down, and never try to undermine me again. I'm here because you're shit. I'm here to decide whether you're good enough or you're out the door. Don't undermine me. Don't ever undermine me. You work, you wear that shirt, or you don't. Don't leak. Don't question me. I'm only in this job because you're shit. And if you don't like it, maybe you should have played better in the first place. Now shut up and sit down. Mark, our club needs to break all ties with the past. What was the point in getting Ralph? No manager will be able to sort this mess, says Andy and Bruno. Mark, I don't see things changing until they strip Maguire of the captaincy. Look, you know what, bro Dems? I'm not naming names. I think people want to go in on Maguire because he's had a bad season. Harry Maguire is potentially a very, very good player. It's very unfair to name and shame players when you don't have all the facts. The reality is it's more than one player. It's more than 4 players. There's a number of players doing this. And whether you are one of those players doing it or whether you're one of those players who's not doing it, the reality is it doesn't need a sit down. It needs a look in the mirror and a look at what's going on. And the point is, what you need to do is look in that dressing room and go, who should we trust? David De Gea and Cristiano Ronaldo is the best start because they're the 2 best players we've got. They consistently have performed at the highest level. And Ronaldo's done it all and he's done it at United. They're the two players to listen to. Cristiano Ronaldo was injured in a Euros final for Portugal and basically orchestrated the team from the touchline. Like, he's done it all. He's been there from nobody to the greatest. He's been in every game. He's been in every tournament. He's been knocked out. He's won. He's the man to listen to. I don't care. Look, if I'm Harry Maguire, let's use Harry Maguire as an example. If somebody comes to me as Harry Maguire and says, I don't like the fact that Ronaldo's not being picked, Harry, I think there's a problem here. Harry Maguire should only have one answer to that. Shut up and sit down. He is a legend of this football club. He's achieved absolutely everything. And ultimately, we're not getting the ball to him. He's not missing chances. We're not getting the ball to him. He is not somebody that you start bitching about. So maybe have a look at yourself. Look at that badge on your chest. And you come back to me when you're doing better than he's done in his career. And then we'll talk. But we ain't talking now. And that's the only criticism I'd have of Harry Maguire is, where's all this bitching coming from in your dressing room? You're the captain of the club. Where's the bitching coming from? And why are you entertaining it? If I'm captain, and Roy Keane would have done this, and Gary Neville would have done this, and Vidic would have done this, if a dressing room is split and leaking like that, it's not your fault, but it reflects on you as a captain. And he should not be entertaining it. He should be basically, I would advise take the captaincy off and give it to Ronaldo, but he should be supporting him. 5 points out of 24 and talk about a good and bad tactics. Professional footballers but don't see the reset. They're shit, says Jameson. You should give an idea of who the snakes are because you are a pundit and that's why we watch you. Otherwise, it's pub talk, says Liam Hennings. It's not pub talk, Liam. This is a fan channel. It's not my job to tell you who the players are that are doing it. And the reality is, the people who are being leaked to should do that, not me. It's not pub talk because it's on Sky Sports. It's on about 6 outlets today. All independent outlets, all getting it from different people. United's dressing room is in a mess and they're undermining Rangnick. There's poison in there and it's a bloody disgrace. And the only way to solve it is to clear the deadwood and bring some new players in. But talking about that, because I've got to go in a couple of minutes because we're going to be doing a watch-along of the Chelsea game where we'll continue the chat there. But my point is this. Please subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, by the way, and smash a like on the video. But my point is this. Ruben Neves is not happening. I don't know why that story's out. The club would always say to me that this is not PR spin. They don't like that word, PR spin. But why is Ruben Neves to Man United being mentioned on an afternoon where the dressing room is leaking like a sieve? We're not getting Ruben Neves in January. Wolves won't sell Ruben Neves in January. Wolves have got an opportunity of finishing above us. They're only 3 points behind us now. Ruben Neves could happen in the summer, but it's not happening in January. I don't know why it's coming out. I was basically told today that you've got more chance of Alvarez happening in January, and Alvarez ain't happening. So Ruben Neves needs to be parked. It's not happening. And also, Wolves would want 50 to 60 million pounds in the summer for him. So he's not happening. He's got 2.5 years on his contract. It's not happening in January. Kamara could happen in January. Zakaria could happen in January. That's where the expectation needs to be. The thing that terrifies me is that, and I will say this, next press conference of Ralph will be interesting, says Salah Ahmed. Yeah, I don't know whether that's on Thursday or tomorrow or on Friday. But you know what terrifies me about all this lot, and it's the most important thing I'm going to say tonight. The board listens to these prat players, right? These players that have been listened to for 3 years are influential. Somebody just said there, look, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said something about Rashford, and in the next press conference he had to apologise for it. That doesn't mean Rashford's one of the bad players, by the way. It just means that the board didn't like a manager calling a player out. I'm not talking about Rashford. I'm talking about Ollie said something about Rashford, and in his next press conference, Ollie had to apologise. The manager of the football club calls out one of his players, rightly or wrongly, and then in the next press conference, he has to apologise. That's coming from the club. That shows you the power the club give to players over the manager. They'll undermine a manager for the players. The players have come out this week and undermined Rangnick. What chance do you think Rangnick's got of knocking on the door and saying, buy me a midfielder? The board will be... I'll tell you how the board will be reacting now. They'll be like, we've got the wrong man. The lads, they don't like Rangnick. They don't like him. Let's get Mickey Phelan to sort it out. Let's get Mickey Phelan in his shorts to calm him down. Maybe he could blow a few balloons up and pop him. That'll calm him down. They'll love the banter of that. the players have undermined Rangnick and the club have undermined Rangnick. Because if that Mike Phelan story's true, Ralph, you just let Mike sort it out. Hold on, I'm the manager. You're not letting me sort it out. No. We'll get Mike in. He's one of the mates. He'll sort it out. I'll sort it out. No. You go and sit down. This is what worries me. Can we now forget Zakaria, Kamara, or anybody else Rangnick wants because the club will listen to the players? I think maybe we're not buying anyone in January now because the club are going, oh, the players don't like Ralph. You know, the lads don't like Ralph. Maybe his days are numbered now. But they never did it against Dolly, did they? Because he was his mate. Agreed, but you know more than us. The turds need to be flushed, frustrated, says Liam. Mate, read between the lines. You know who these players are as much as I do, but I'm not. The point is they're not going to get sold. They've got too much power. The board's the problem. The board's the problem. The players are a victim of the board who've given them too much power. The board's the problem at Manchester United, and it always will be. And I think Rangnick's in trouble because when the players turn on a manager, and they never did turn on Ollie, they didn't want him to be sacked. They turned on Mourinho, he got the sack. When the players turn on a manager at Manchester United, the board normally listen to the players. What I would love to see, and this would be genuine change, I would love to see those players sold. Even at a loss, I'd love it. I'd love to see it because that would be real change. Mark, I'm still not letting Rangnick off for continuing to pick Scooby-Doo over Donny. Criminal. No journals are grinning him, says Nick. And welcome to the Members Club, Liam Hemmings. Look, we'll continue the chat on That's Football. Chelsea versus Spurs is about to kick off and I'm doing a watch-along for that. So they're kicking off in 5 minutes. I've dropped the link in the video description. I will be live there in a couple of minutes and we will continue the chat there. But I've really enjoyed the show tonight. I'm sure we'll be talking about it tomorrow morning with Paul Ince. In fact, Paul Ince tomorrow morning is perfect. He's been in the United dressing room. He wants Scott McTominay as captain. I think tomorrow's morning's show with Paul Ince is going to be explosive, so don't miss that. But we'll continue the chat on That's Football. I've dropped the link in the video description. If you don't know what That's Football is, it's my other channel where I just watch other football. But we'll continue the chat. Fact is, Rangnick is there to manage them, not be their effing mate. Don't like the way you're treated. Off you go. Exactly, Apollo 30X. Right, I will see you over on That's Football in about 2 minutes' time. Join me through the link in the video description.